Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, particularly welcome to those online who are listening in, and welcome to Councillor John, who's joined us in the conference room today. Apologies for absence. I don't believe we have any.
Not from Cabinet members, no.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, Cabinet? Thank you. I bring your attention to the Performance and Overview Scrutiny Committee feedback to Cabinet on the meeting of the 23rd of September. Once again, profound thanks to Councillor Neil, the chair of that Scrutiny Committee, for taking the time to feedback and the oversight comments, observations and recommendations of the committee. The one which will concern us most is the review monitoring update, which no doubt Councillor Callard, I know that you've taken note of and been in discussions with Officer and those recommendations. The two other reports are to do with the Chief Officer for Social Care Annual Report and the Safeguarding Annual Report. And I note too that we discussed this more broadly in terms of the preventative agenda, wellness, Monmouthshire, and the scrutiny that went to people scrutiny around that report. So if we could note our thanks to the committee. Thank you. That brings us on to item 4, a whole authority preventative strategy for supporting resilience and healthy communities. That's over to you, Councillor Chandler. I must say I'm very excited this report has finally come before us.
No, thank you, Leader. Me too. Because I think it's fair to say that all reports that come to Cabinet are significant, but perhaps the long-term significance of this report may not be immediately obvious to those that have not been involved in its development, because it sets out a bold ambition for us. That ambition of residents, especially our more vulnerable and deprived residents, are enabled to live healthier and independently for longer. So it's about promoting well-being and addressing inequality in our county, just as much as it is about delaying or reducing demands on statutory services, as welcome as that is in helping make our services more sustainable. But it also sets out a clear direction that this requires a whole authority approach. It's not a social care strategy. It's a Monmouthshire Council issue. It's integral to delivering our community and corporate plan. And it requires services to be prepared to change and do things differently, in particular to be aligned around the goal and principles of the strategy, and to target their efforts where they're most needed, and to collaborate with colleagues, partner organisations, and most importantly, with the people whose well-being we want to support. It's not a fully formed strategy complete with a detailed action plan taking us far into the future. It is a long-term strategy that sets clear goals and strategic approaches while providing space for action plans to be developed and refined based on evidence and learning. As we develop the strategy, we engage members through a dedicated seminar, as well as by bringing this paper to People Scrutiny Committee. And the response has been positive, and members' input has been very helpful as we've moved forward. The cover report also refers to some of the initial work streams so that you have a better understanding of the direction we're taking, but that's not what you're deciding on today. What we're here to do today is I'm asking you to endorse the Living Well Monmouthshire strategy that is in Appendix 1, and that you task officers with implementing the strategy and establishing a programme board to oversee its delivery. I think it'd be best if I welcome any questions you have. And if you choose to endorse the strategy, I really look forward to us all working together to drive its implementation for the benefit of Monmouthshire's more vulnerable residents. So thank you, Leah.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments or observations?
Yes, please.
Councillor Sandals.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Chandler. Really welcome this. I think it's exciting and innovative, and I'm really pleased to see that we're bringing this Living Well strategy to Cabinet. I think it sets an ambitious but positive direction. I'd like you, if you could please, just to explain a little about how our ongoing age-friendly work that we're currently doing sits within that framework now, particularly in relation to supporting independence and inclusion?
Yeah, thanks for the question and the comments. Yeah, I think it's really important. I think I've really seen the age-friendly initiative that we've been driving forward over the past couple of years as being really an integral part of this overall approach to promoting independence and well-being. Absolutely, it's very much in aiming at the same goals of looking at what are the barriers for older people in having their independence, whether it's through mobility, whether it's through services, understanding of that. And again, it is a whole very broad spectrum approach in terms of it's not related to the care that people receive, it's related to how they're able to live in our county. And that's what our Living Well strategy is about. It's not about services we provide to residents, it's about how do we enable residents to live independently and to live well in our county, whether it's through the homes they're living in, the ability to move around the county, the social circles that they're able to engage with, their ability to be physically and mentally and socially active. All of those things are important for old people specifically within our age-friendly work, but vulnerable people in more general in terms of our preventative work that we're setting out in this strategy here today. So I see them very much as aligned. So thank you.
Thank you. It's really good to hear. Thanks, Councillor Chandler.
Councillor Callard.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you for bringing the report, Councillor Chandler. I echo many of the comments that Councillor Sanders mentioned there. I wonder if you could expand a little bit more on the resource implications in both the short and the medium term, and also the longer term.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Callard. I would expect you to ask that question with your role. I think where we're at the moment and what we've set out in the report is that in the short term, no new spending has been identified as the work that we're setting out in the short term falls within existing budgets. As we move into the medium term, we might identify, and as our action plans develop and our learning develops and we move forward into further implementation, we might identify needs for either additional or reallocated spending. And we will seek grant funding accordingly if it's new spending. If it's reallocated spending, then of course we'll be looking to readjust budgets with the support of Cabinet in the future. Always looking for value for money, how the impact of that is going to be to make sure that we're getting the very best for our residents. As we move into the long term, clearly our ambition is that the improved well-being amongst our most vulnerable populations within Monmouthshire will actually reduce pressure on our social care budgets, which, as you are very much aware, is a constant challenge for us year on year, is addressing that growing pressure that we have on social care with our ageing demographic in our society and the increasing vulnerability of many of our residents. So long term, we see this as a really important means to making our social care services and budgets sustainable. But as I said, in the short and medium term, I think we're seeing this as relatively cost neutral or funded through external grant funding.
I think that's interesting to hear. It's important, isn't it, that we are proactive and what is a UK-wide agenda, and we're proactive because we are seeking to work with our older citizens and together find ways in which we can address the preventative agenda that actually makes sense to the people who are living the life of an older citizen, and often, which is I like the fact that we are focusing on wellness and well-being and not on prevention. Yeah. I don't think that's how people's lived experience is not about prevention. It's about living. I think this captures it very well. Councillor Birch.
Thank you, Leader. Again, I'd like to say thank you for bringing this report, Councillor Chandler. We've discussed frequently the alignments between prevention and housing support, the disabled people's housing grants and facilities grant and assistive technology. But do you see any changes or expanded role in as a result of bringing the strategy, or Or is it merely a matter of ensuring that the right services are getting to the right people?
I mean, thank you for that question. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think the work that the housing team here in the council does, and our partners in the Register of Social Landlords in the area that they do, is really important in terms of supporting independent living. So whether it is through adaptations within the house, whether which could be anything from grab rails to ramps to stair lifts, all those types of things, as well as the assistive tech work that we've been rolling out. And of course, as you know, we've launched the new assistive tech hubs, both in Chepstow Hospital in Wallow Vale Hospital as well in Monmouth, where people can see what the assistive tech does and help people choose what's the most appropriate for them to help them live independently. These are all key elements of the work and the support that we can provide people. How does that fit in with longer term ambitions? I mean, I think the more that we can align this to the work of other teams, the more we can expand this when resources allow, I think that would be really good. I think it overlaps a lot with our ambitions to make sure that we're providing earlier and better information and advice to people as they come in. So before they come into more formal relationship with us as a council, the information we provide, whether it's on the website or through our hubs, is immediately signposting them to some of these opportunities in terms of how can they improve and make their home safer, how can they use that tech in order to maintain their independence and to provide reassurance to their carers and their loved ones. The more that we can do that, I think that the better we'll be and the more effective we'll be. And that's one of the work streams, is looking at that early information and advice side of things, and how we can bring those two together. So, I think there are so many different strands of work that we're doing. It's about how we bring them together and take them forward. And as the leader said, I think our emphasis on well-being and independence is important because it starts with the citizen, it starts with the resident. So the benefits to us in terms of prevention, the benefits to us as a local authority in terms of prevention are clear, but our rationale for doing it and our drive for doing it is about promoting well-being and independence. And I think that's what always needs to be at the forefront of our mind with all of the decision making we're making at strategic level or an operational level, is how is this impacting on well-being and independence of our vulnerable people. So that's what I hope we'll achieve through this.
Thanks very much, Councillor Chandler. I think one of the things that comes across quite strongly in this paper, and I would thank everybody that's been involved in its development, which includes people strategy. And I think the scrutiny they gave this paper was particularly useful for its final iteration. And that is important. I know you've also consulted widely with some of our partners and across the whole authority. We can see, therefore, it's building on our strengths as a council, strengths that have been built up long before our administration. As much as I would like to take full credit, I think we have to recognise that this has been a long process of learning, development, thinking, which as an administration, it fits with our principles and goals, and we brought it together. I therefore feel more than hopeful that we will move from the short term into a medium and long term embedded approach to how we look at prevention, not just for adults, but for children as well.
Yeah.
We are asked Cabinet for two things, for us to endorse the strategy, Living Well Monmouthshire, and to task officers with implementing the strategy and implementing and establishing a programme board to oversee delivery. Are we in agreement, Cabinet? Thank you very much. I move us on to the next item, which is under the portfolio of Councillor Griffiths, Connect to Work Supported Employment Programme.
Thanks very much, Leader. So this Cabinet report results from the introduction of a new programme by the Department of Work and Pensions across the United Kingdom. So as the title of the report says, the programme itself is entitled Connect to Work supported employment programme. The purpose of the programme is to support individuals into employment, particularly those individuals facing barriers of health and disability. It's particularly pleasing, I think, for this cabinet that the Department of Work and Pension, initially under the leadership of Liz Kendall, now Pat McFadden, has chosen local authorities across the UK to be the appropriate organisation for delivering this programme. I've no doubt other options were available, administrative agencies, private sector agencies, but the DWP, I think rightly, has chosen local authorities for the delivery of this important programme. The importance of it, I just want to dwell on because it's apparent in the very rapidly changing circumstances of our labour market, our local labour market, and labour markets throughout the United Kingdom. But I'll just give some data for Monmouthshire. In 2020, if you take the 18 to 24-year-old cohort, in 2020, there were 441 people claiming universal credit. In 2025, that figure is 729, so a shift from 441 to 729, a 65% increase. Now that is significant and should not be ignored. It's data for Monmouthshire, but it's reflected throughout the United Kingdom. The data behind those figures indicates that health barriers are the context for the individuals in this growing category. The significance is that there is a group of relatively young people who are disengaging with the labour market for health reasons. And insofar as they're doing that, my fear is that it undermines the whole life chances of those individuals for decades to come. If you're not engaged in the labour market in your 20s, your ability to pick up from there and re-engage later will be significantly worsened. It's a serious problem. It's a problem for those individuals, but it's also a problem for the economy, for the UK, and the economy of Monmouthshire. We've often reflected in Monmouthshire that with our elderly population, businesses report labour shortages at various times, at all times. And if there is this group of young people who are disengaging from the labour market, then that, if you like, disables the Monmouthshire economy as a whole. So it's a significant problem which requires this serious response from DWP. In paragraph 7 of the report, we get the funding figures, which are that between 2025 and 2030, just over £1 million will be the funding available to Monmouthshire County Council. So a significant figure. It starts relatively slowly this year, I think 60,000 this year, but rising to a peak of over 300,000 in the third year. Programme to taper off in anticipation of us actually finding solutions to the problem. During those 5 years, Monmouthshire County Council will be expected to enrol just over 270 individuals to the programme and support, the target will be to support half of that number, 130 plus, into paid employment. So serious targets which are expected to have an effect on those individuals involved and the economy. The recommendations are for Cabinet that we have a preferred option of delivering this programme in-house by our own employment and skills team, and that we agree that Cardiff City Council becomes an administrative lead for the South East Wales region. That's my introduction. I'm happy to take questions on that.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths, and thank you for the comprehensive data analysis of where we are in Monmouthshire. You have raised this issue over a number of months of the concern about people who are out of work and remained out of work for a long time. This is one way we can address it. There are clearly other ways we need to think about also in conjunction with our partners, as it's a systemic and potentially structural issue for the employment market. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Griffiths, I'm just wondering why we should prefer to deliver this in-house when there may be specialist providers available on the market.
Yeah, I've taken time to consider the options for delivery, and my recommendation, which is a firm recommendation, that we do have this preferred strategy of in-house delivery, and I make that recommendation on the basis of the confidence that we can have, because of the evidence, that there is a proven track record in our own team, our own skills and employment team within Monmouthshire County Council. Over the, 2.5 years or so, 3 years that I've been able to provide some political leadership to this team, I've noted their effectiveness. They've run the Inspire programme, an innovative programme which supports young people who have been at risk of not being in employment, education and training, the NEETS programme. I think those of us on the relevant scrutiny committee and cabinet have had the opportunity to listen to the leaders of that programme, and they have given, quite rightly, us confidence. Our in-house team have provided the CELT programme, which supports older people into the labour market, and again, the evidence, the data is that they've done that effectively. The same team, or parts of the same team, have been running in-house the Multiply programme, which provides access to numeracy and literacy courses for adults. I've seen the data. I've actually joined some of the classes and gained great confidence, not just in the leadership for the programme, but the actual teachers who we've been able to recruit and implement that scheme. Those programmes taken together have already supported 300 people into employment. So it's because of that, if you like, in-house success that I have confidence in recommending that we continue with an in-house delivery of the future programme. It's an approach which is not unique to Monmouthshire, but it's not universal either. There are local authorities in South Wales who have used private sector providers for delivery of things like Multiplier, and will continue to do so. They'll have their own circumstances for reaching their own decisions. Our circumstances are that we've got a proven team, and I'd like to refer and commend the leadership of that team by Rory Clifford and Hannah Jones. It is their success, their effectiveness, that gives me confidence in making this recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Maybe, you have a question?
Thank you. Yes, another question about delivery. please, Councillor Griffiths. Could you explain why we need to appoint Cardiff Council as a regional lead? Thank you.
Yes, I've said that I am pleased the DWP has chosen local authorities throughout the UK as the means of delivery of this programme. The DWP would have seen that choice as a challenging one, in the sense that there will be, I believe, around 500 responsible local authorities for this delivery. And London-based civil servants do not enjoy dealing with large numbers of local authorities. They prefer to have an intermediary. It makes their systems more efficient if they can do that. And so they've asked each region in the United Kingdom to nominate an intermediary. So this, our region is the same boundaries as our Cardiff City region, the local authorities involved there. There's been discussion within the Cardiff City region, and the local authority which offered its services with a little bit of arm twisting, it's not the role that you look forward to, has been Cardiff City Council. I need to stress that in being the lead authority, it is a very administrative role. They don't provide leadership, they don't undertake any of the service delivery. There'll be a mechanism where the DWP routes the funding. Got Cardiff will distribute to its member authorities. It'll be the route where information goes back to the DWP to allow the accountability of member authorities back to DWP. So it's very much an administrative role, and I think we can understand why DWP wants these regional intermediaries to be there.
Thank you, that's very clear.
It is indeed. Do we have any more questions? Thank you very much, Councillor Griffiths. Small it may appear, but actually very important, and for those involved in it, life-changing. We have two recommendations: to agree that Cardiff Capital Council is the lead authority as laid out by Councillor Griffiths, and secondly, to agree the preferred option for delivery to be in-house. Again, it's very clear justification given for why we should do this. Are we agreed, Cabinet? I think that's all. That brings us to the final item on the agenda, the 2025-2026 revenue budget financial update. Over to you, Councillor Callard.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased today to present the first budget monitoring report of the financial year 2025-2026. It lays out the Council's financial performance to date within the financial year and the projected position for the remainder of the financial year. As set out in the report, the latest forecast indicates a projected revenue budget overspend of £533,000. This represents a 0.2% variance against the total approved budget of £236 million. While it's a relatively modest variance in percentage terms, it reflects continuing pressures across a number of key service areas. The main cost pressures remain with adults and children's social care, where increasing complexity and demand for high-cost care packages continue to challenge service budgets. In adult services, re-ablement and prevention initiatives are beginning to show progress, but not yet at a level sufficient to offset the wider cost and demand pressures being experienced. Within children's services, financial strain has arisen following the withdrawal of specific Welsh Government grant funding, with the Council maintaining family support services to ensure stability and better long-term outcomes for children. In addition, the report notes pressures within passenger transport, primarily linked to shortfalls in expected savings from school transport route changes and within fleet maintenance due to higher fuel, hire and maintenance cost. These areas are being closely monitored with mitigation measures actively pursued. On the funding side, Cabinet will note that the increased cost of employers' national insurance contributions was not fully covered with the Welsh Government grant settlement, resulting in a shortfall of £811,000. This has been addressed through the use of the Council's £850,000 contingency budget, which is prudently set aside during the budget process. While there are positive offsets, including underspends within waste and decarbonisation services, staff vacancies across several directorates, and improved council tax income performance, these have not been sufficient to fully counterbalance the pressures described. The report also highlights the position on schools' reserve balances, which remain an area of considerable concern. The cumulative schools deficit is forecast to increase by £2.8 million, bringing the overall deficit position to £6.9 million by the end of the year. 18 of the 35 schools are projected to be in deficit, and those schools are required to submit recovery plans by October half term. Ongoing engagement and support from the finance and education teams will continue to be critical in addressing these medium-term financial challenges. In terms of budgeted savings, services are currently forecasting delivery of 92% of the £10.7 million savings target set for 2025-2026. This represents a shortfall of approximately £847,000, and work is ongoing to mitigate and, where possible, to close this gap by year end. The broader financial context remains challenging. Inflation continues to run above target. Interest rates remain high, and demand for council services, particularly in care, education and housing, continue to rise. Against this backdrop, maintaining financial discipline and resilience is paramount. The report provides a transparent assessment of the council's current financial position and outlines the ongoing actions being taken to deliver a balanced budget by year end. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Callard. You lay out a situation which is our normal, full of uncertainties, full of a dynamic change that is difficult to predict, but we can follow the trends, but also an absolute attention to financial discipline across the whole council, which, despite the challenges we face, has stood us in good stead and allowed us to make investments in the last budget. Do we have any comments or questions, Cabinet? It is relatively straightforward. Councillor Callard has laid out the recommendations. There are 5. I'm not going to read them out because we'd be here for a long time. They are to note and to continue with the work that's been done on this year's budget and the approach that has been laid out by Councillor Callard. Do we agree? Thank you very much, Cabinet. With that, I'll call the meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everyone online, for joining us. Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. Bye.